Josh, what's my opinion about DLSS 5? I've stopped trying to keep up with technology, and I just want to play the PlayStation 1, to be honest. People are like, oh, look at this technology, look at this, it's improved, look at how the AI has changed this. At some point, I'm just going to give up trying to care. Too much stuff is happening. I have a limited amount of brain power. I'm going to go back to collecting Pogs, Tazos, and playing on the PlayStation 1. That's what I'm going to do. I cannot possibly care about everything that people keep telling me to care about, and I'm tired of pretending that I can. I've seen some bits of it, and some executive somewhere was basically saying, oh, we're going to be able to render graphics to make them look better. I don't care. Can you make a good game? I don't care what it looks like at this point. Can you just make a good game? People are like, yeah, but look at how this changes, and look at how it makes it do this, and do that, and do the other, and look at all the frame interpolation we've got, and look at the DLSS, and look at the AI we've used, look at the uncanny valley that we're in, firmly. They're not trying to make a good game anymore. They're trying to impress executives who don't play games. Very few gamers are looking at that and going, this is going to make the best video game. Film directors are looking at it, without a doubt. Cinematic directors are looking at it. People that want to make graphics a competition are looking at it. The kind of people that invest a huge amount of money into making video games look better are doing that because they don't believe that video games have any value beyond looking better. They often think that if a game looks better, it is better. There was a famous example of one of the executives at Sony, I think it was, showing a... Correct me if I'm wrong on this. There was some game show somewhere, and there was the new version of Forza, and there was the old version of Forza, and then there was the really old version of Forza. And it was meant to show the connection between new games to the old games. And while people were at the game show, everyone just kept playing the old game. Was that what it was? It was something to do, it was a racing game. And the executives basically kept saying, why are people playing the old games? I do not understand why people keep playing the old games. Why would people play the old games at all? And they couldn't understand that just because something was old, it wasn't bad. It wasn't Burnout, because the Burnout guys know that the old Burnout games are good. It was Gran Turismo, that was the one, thank you. Gran Turismo. One of the executives did not understand why people preferred the older version of Gran Turismo. And you have to kind of remember that sometimes when we're dealing with gaming executives, we aren't dealing with people that actually play or even understand games as a recreational tool. They understand them as a product. People that make games sometimes look at and refer to games as product. And so when they say, hey, this is new product, and you say, well, actually, older product was a better experience, they say, no, it wasn't, because older product didn't have these things that newer product has. They cannot understand. In my mind, Tenchu 1 is better than Tenchu 2. I don't know if you guys have played Tenchu 1 or Tenchu 2 on the old PlayStation 1, but I believe Tenchu 1 does several things that make it a better ninja experience than Tenchu 2. Tenchu 2 is more polished, but Tenchu 1 I think is a better experience. It's got worse graphics and smaller levels, but I think that actually works for what they're trying to do. It's the example of the Blizzard exec saying you think you do but you don't about wanting a classic game. People were like, oh, you know, you think you want that, but actually it's awful, you're going to hate it. And then it got released and they were like, actually, this is great, this is fantastic, this is what we need. Because the executives don't see the games as the gaming experience, they see them as the product. And sometimes older product is better experience. People just don't always understand this. They look at games like an object, not like a piece of art. That's a great way of putting it, Soko. So when they say, hey, look at this amazing new kind of graphical technology we've got. Look at how incredible these graphics look. Look at how fantastic we can make this cinematic look. Okay, you know how well Slay the Spire 2 is doing? You know how well Mugenics is doing? You know how everyone loved the game Date Everything? Sometimes you don't need your game to be the best graphical example of a game. You just need it to be fun. I also dislike the fact when, I hate that, when they say like our game has 100 hours of gameplay. Yeah, but is it good? That's like going to a restaurant and being served 100 courses. At some point, the courses are going to suck. I don't care how many courses a restaurant gives me, I care how good the food is it gives me. Gameplay is more important than graphics, but unfortunately executives can't show off gameplay until the game is done, and even if they could show off gameplay, it's kind of difficult to understand how well it feels to play until you go and do it. So, because they can't show off gameplay, they just show off what they can show off, which is graphics. Hold up, the restaurant courses comparison is pretty good. I'm going to use that from now on. I don't care if the restaurant serves me 100 courses. Just give me some good food. Yeah, look at Chrono Trigger. I've had so many people say to me they can't wait to play Chrono Trigger when it gets a full graphical remaster. I'm like, why don't you just play it now? Just go and enjoy it now. Sometimes graphics are part of the art direction of a game. Art direction is important. It matters. It is what the designers wanted it to look like. I think Path of Exile 2 does trailers pretty well, and that's why I've been really happy to work with Grinding Gear Games on stuff, because their trailers are basically, here's a new class, here's 5 minutes of uninterrupted gameplay. I'm like, thank you. I can see exactly what it does, I can see how it plays, I can see how it interacts with the world, I can see what abilities it's going to get, I can see the mechanics you're bringing with this. Thank you. That is lovely. You've given me exactly what I would like and what I needed from this. Good stuff so far. So to link this back to do I care about DLSS 5? Honestly, no. Because I have never said this game is better because it has beautiful graphics. I have said this game is great and has beautiful graphics, but I much prefer style and art direction over just graphics. Style and art direction become memorable. I think that Expedition 33 has incredible art direction. I think that there are many games out there that have more photorealistic graphics than Expedition 33. I don't think it makes them better. It's why I think I was so enamored with Otherland. The incredible art direction of it. Just give me good art direction, Arb. You disagree. The SNES in general had great pixel art. A better comparison is NES and earlier. N64, 3D. These games could benefit from a graphical upgrade. There are exceptions, of course. Of course there are exceptions, but it depends what the graphics are trying to be. I'm not saying you cannot ever take a game, give it better graphics, and make it better. As long as you keep the gameplay relatively the same, totally possible to do. Can we think of a good example of a game coming out with graphics that were just straight up better? You can't casually mention you talked with Luke Dale. Yeah, I just messaged him. I'm like, hey man, this is what I do. Saw the game, looked really cool, good job. And he's like, oh, thanks bro. I think he'd seen some of my videos before. The Resident Evil 1 and 2 remake. Yeah, love those upgrades. They were good. I like the graphical upgrade of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 to the enhanced editions. I like the, you know what, the Oblivion remake with the graphics. That was great. Do you know what, however, though, and I was getting to this point, T3, you are spot on with that. I think the most important thing that a graphical remake or a graphical upgrade does is not actually change or improve the graphics, it's make old games easily playable on new consoles. Like, Morrowind is relatively difficult to get running on a new console, a new PC right now. So is Gothic. I wanted to play the Gothic games, but they're not super easy to get running on modern systems. Ross Scott does a lot of work with this on his Accursed Farms channel, where he gets old games running on modern hardware. If a company said, hey, we're not going to change anything, all we're going to do is make this game run in windowed mode really easily, I'd be super happy. Just get old games running in windowed mode and I'll be on board with you. Lord Pycrost, Morrowind is not hard to get running, it's just open Morrowind. So you're saying that you can't just download the game immediately, you've got to instead do a third-party thing and make that work. That's exactly what I'm on about. The whole point is, it's not super-duper easy. I would much rather have it so everything is in one place. Every extra step you add to any program is going to be a quit moment for someone. It's going to be a moment someone stops playing it. And so my whole thing about upgrading stuff is removing as many quit moments as possible. I've never played the game black and white, but I've heard it's pretty hard to get running on modern systems. Yeah, if you're not really into the game, you're not going to go through the process. That's a great way of putting it. When someone says, oh, it's easy, just do this, 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 and this, I'm like, okay, cool. What if instead we just downloaded, installed, and clicked play? That's it. Which is why Morrowind is easier to get from GOG. But even then, I don't think it comes with the widescreen versions. Do I have any opinions that new games are released using Unreal or Unity these days? The older games had custom engines, and companies decided not to create an engine but use the ones that have many flaws. I don't really care how a game is made or what it's made in. I care about the game ultimately being good. If someone says this game is made in Unreal, I don't care. If they say the game is made in Unreal, therefore it's good. No, that's not true. Also, if someone says, I'm not going to play that, it was made in Unreal, then you aren't hating the game, you're hating an engine for no real reason. I'm pretty sure most of Expedition 33 was made in the Unreal Engine, which is fine. I'm pretty sure there are also a lot of crap MMORPGs that were made in the Unreal Engine. I'm sure there's good and bad stuff in Unity. Expedition 33 was made in Unreal. They used blueprints. Okay, cool. Cool. If a game works, it works. I don't need to The way that I like to explain products to people is, someone explained it to me once like this. Imagine you're making a YouTube video, and imagine you put a huge amount of effort into that video. You spend hours slaving over it, and it's not very good. And you say to yourself, well, people should watch it because I spent hours on it. No. The audience do not care how long you spent on something. They do not care what it meant to you. They care what they get. If you spend 100 hours molding the best plate of shit, when you give it to the audience, they're not going to appreciate it more because it took you 100 hours. They're just going to see a plate of shit. If you can spend 10 minutes making the best meal they've ever eaten, they don't care that it took you 10 minutes. They care it's the best meal they've ever eaten. What I think a lot of people forget is that the audience are more focused on what they get and not how you got there. When you give the audience a product, the product simply needs to work. The product needs to be the best product the audience get. While some people, I'm sure, will want to go and watch the behind the scenes of how it's made, some people will understand that, oh my goodness, the expertise that went into this make it even more special. That's totally okay. Most people just care that what they get is working the way they want it to work. That's it. So when someone says, do you like, DLSS? Do I like the Unity engine? Do I like this, that, and the other? Ultimately, I do not care about the things that make the product. I care about the product itself. If someone shows me a product and says, here's the finished thing. Now, I'm not going to be particularly fond of generative AI because I believe that that doesn't necessarily make the product better. And also, I personally do like the knowledge that humans were involved in the process. This is why blaming the gamers doesn't work. You're blaming the consumers for taking issue with the product they were served, as if buying games is charity. When people say, we are going to make this game, it is going to appeal to this audience, we've put this much hours into it, we've done this, we've done that, we've done the other, you are acting as if the audience owe you their money and their time, where they don't. I really dislike it when I see, and this normally comes from ideologically driven games, not necessarily mechanically driven games. I think we saw a spate of this a couple of years ago. And I think we see it quite a lot on Kickstarter, we see it a lot on Indiegogo, we see it a lot with smaller studios, when they say things like, we're going to make a game that's going to appeal to this ideological demographic. And everyone turns around and goes, is it a good game? And people go, it doesn't matter, it's appealing to this ideological demographic. I think we saw it with Dustborn pretty substantially. Dustborn did not sell well because it was not a very good game. I've played a bit of it, I didn't like it. And there seems to be this feeling that just because you agree with a certain ideological viewpoint, you have to then buy any games that also agree with that or share that or show that. Almost as if the game itself is propaganda for agreeing and you are supporting the charity of it. I dislike that. You do not need to buy a game just because it is saying things that you agree with. You also don't need to avoid a game just because it's saying things you disagree with. You need to buy a game because you think you would like more games like that to exist. That's kind of it. And this is why, I don't know if you guys have seen this. There is a bit of an ideological battle going on right now between, it's two games. One of them I think is called A Night Story, and the other one is Anno a Number. You guys will have to correct me. There's two games that are following the 1348 ex voto. Is that what it is? There's two games that are following pretty much the same kind of game, where they just, you play as a knight. One is the Joan of Arc inspired one, and A Knight's Path. That was it. So ex voto and A Knight's Path, and they have been held up as almost the de facto champions within this knightly battle. And people are saying that they are showing different sides of the culture war. And therefore, if you agree with this side, you have to play this game. And if you agree with this side, you have to play that game. Okay, how about we just play both games and work out which one is best based on gameplay and what we personally enjoy? And if you like one game better because of its gameplay, go for it. But very few people are going to say that they like a game because of its ideology that it was created with. The vast majority of casual players are just going to play a game. But division within communities sells. because it's marketing for that community. There is a way of saying, hey, if you support this ideology, you have to buy this game. And if you support that ideology, you've got to buy that game. And suddenly, both those games no longer get held up as games in their own right. They get held up as virtue signaling which side you sit on. And I dislike that. I dislike that a lot, because video games then become tools within the culture war. They become signifiers of your values instead of just games that you can sit down and play. Yeah, I mean, that's true. How are you supposed to enjoy a video game unless you know that you are superior to other people for purchasing it? Art reflects the value of the people at the time. It's hard to avoid that. That's very true. But video games are often a mechanical, a narrative connection, an ideological connection within the game world itself. It almost feels, yeah, that's a great way of putting it, Dizzy. Sometimes video games are released and they feel that they are trying to guilt trip people into buying them by implying that if you don't support them, you don't support the ideology they were created with. I can look at a video game created by people that I ideologically agree with and say, this is a bad game. I do not want to play it because I do not enjoy it as a video game. I can also look at a video game created by people that I ideologically disagree with and say, you have made a good game. I am therefore going to play that game because I enjoy video games. And when people turn around and say to me, you can't play that, you can't enjoy that, you can't say that's fun, because if you do, you are agreeing with the people who made it, I will say to them, no. My agreement and my enjoyment of art created by people that I am ideologically opposed to does not mean that I am agreeing with their ideology. It means that I am simply enjoying something that they have created for me to enjoy. And unfortunately, this is no longer considered a normal take, because it's considered that anything that you derive pleasure from, you also inherently support. Most people are way too terminally online. If you say to someone who lives an offline lifestyle, hey, if you listen to this band, you are ideologically agreeing with everything every member in the band says, that's insane. I do not know the politics or the ideology of most artists that I enjoy. I just know that I enjoy the work they create. And I think the reason that, you know what, you said the word correctly, it's exhausting. That's what it is. It's straight up exhausting. I think the reason it's so exhausting is because it means that every single thing becomes a test. Everything becomes a purity test.